tough act to follow. So I'll do what I can. The one thing I know to do better than anybody else is fail. But I wasn't really planning on showing any live demonstration. Before I start the actual presentation that I put together, I just want to, because I'm the last speaker of this afternoon, there's a few things that came up that I just want to seed into you while I go through describing, basically describing what my journey has been all the way to this creative director position that I have now with Playeum. Come and see me later if you want more detail about them. We're opening in September. I'll take you through all this in good time. But before I go through the presentation, I just want to seed a few ideas in your mind, a few words. Teachers, instruction, space, play. I think those words are quite enough already. And think about them in terms of quantity, quality, and in terms of who is the teacher, who is the space, where is the instruction. And this is something that has come in the different speakers we just heard this afternoon. And you'll see the space that I describe here is actually the main thing that I'll be talking about. And this was just in the background of everything that we heard this afternoon. So let me start with my first slide. I'm French, and you can guess my age from what you see below in terms of the dates. And in France in the 70s and the 80s, we didn't have MakerFaire. We had laissez-faire, okay? We just played in the mud. Sticks, potatoes, ropes, and whatever, you know, stones. My mother was not technically a homemaker, but she knew how to make yogurt, she knew how to sew clothes. She's the one who painted the wall and made my bed. And when I say make my bed, I don't mean putting the sheet in the morning, you know, she actually built it. And my parents in France at the moment, bless them, over 70 years old, are still renovating the next apartment. For some reason, they're not getting people to do it. They just enjoy making and doing it. I only just recently realized the impact this must have been doing on me. So this book is the kind of book that we had in our bookshelf. Do everything yourself. It's better, it's cheaper. And find again the quality of life, eat healthy, make everything and repair everything. Nothing special, that's just what we did. We took the time, and that's what I grew up, that's the culture I grew up with. So when I saw the making movement come up recently, I was at first a bit wondering what was new about it. There are some distinctions, but I'm not going to go into it. I'll just tell you this is my story, and this is where I come from. Now when you make everything for yourself, when you try different things, how many different things are you trying here? Here you're trying things and there's someone in front of you and they're showing you the stuff. Quite a lot of the time it will work. Now if you're taking things from a book and you're reading the instruction, you're lucky if you can understand the language, that's the first thing. If it gets a little bit complicated and you don't have a system that's as well thought as the Strawbees, sometimes you end up with things like this. The famous toaster project, which was by Thomas Thwaites, and basically he decided to try to make a toaster, just starting from absolute scratch. The result was a bit strange looking, didn't really, I think it worked. It didn't really, it's not exactly what you want to make your toast with in the morning. Expectations. If you expect it to look like your, whatever brand toaster you have on your breakfast table, it's called a failure. If you're expected to make something that works to a certain degree and to have learned something on the way, this is an amazing success. Okay, so expectations are really important. Forward a little bit. missing some slides. There you go. I was a bit older. I started being able, maybe I was 5 and I could use a saw. Maybe I was a bit older and I could read. And these are the kind of inspiration. Now don't be deceived by the pretty woman painting a piece of wood there. Below, in the instruction, it tells you how to change a window and to actually make a tree house. This is normal, monthly, with instructions. Now the instructions are not really detailed. And then you get 2 types of people reading these magazines. You have the ones who say, oh, this is pretty. I like the red, I like the green. I like the shape, I like the size. I'll follow and I'll make. If any of you follow Pinterest, maybe you can look at Pinterest fail. I was trying to look for examples and it was so depressing I decided to stick with the toaster. It was much more exciting. The other way to do it is to just soak in the ideas and make up your own. These magazines and now the Maker magazine, it's inspiration. Don't follow to the step. Use page 1 and then skip to page 15. Take the issue from last time. Just browse through it and then go to sleep. Don't make immediately. You'll be amazed at when you come up the next morning. And then time passed. And then I had a new source of inspiration and how-to, a new kind of magazine. By that time I was reading Nature. I was a student in molecular biology and failing just in the same way that I'd been failing to create exactly what I wanted, the way I wanted. I wasn't too bothered. My family knew that Christmas presents only worked for a couple of hours before breaking down. It didn't matter, it was new ideas. In the lab, it's a bit more tricky, but you do need to also follow the same instructions. You can copy and follow the model, and that might be fine at the beginning. You're layering instruction. That's what we were learning, we were hearing about in the classroom. Sometimes you need to layer instructions. How you do it? There's different ways, but you can't learn to make something in 20 minutes. You will need to go deeper into some learning. So following models, previous models is fine. And then you create and you invent new things. In science, there's a bit of both actually. If you look at these magazines, sometimes it's really replicas of the first. You just switch one color for the other. Well, it's not a color, an organism for another or something else. Sometimes it's really just the same thing. Coming up with innovation is something else. And then, after a while, I decided I would take on the art journey. So I stepped outside the lab and I moved into a studio. It wasn't as straightforward as that, because that happened 15 years ago. I made this chair this year. That's just an example of the kind of art I make. It's not very representative, actually. Most of the art I make, I can't really put it on a picture. You have to experience it rather than really feel it. It's not an object, it's a process, and it's something that I want to involve the people in when I do it, when I create it. So at the moment of creation, at the same time as at the moment of experiencing it, it is supposed to be reciprocal. I won't be talking so much about participatory because I don't like the word anymore, but it's something like that. So, let me take you through the space in which I do this art. I didn't realize at first that it was something special, but after years of teaching some drawing of sorts in a corner of my table, which in the morning was serving breakfast, at lunchtime was piling up with the rest of my bric-a-brac and stuff that I was making, being cleared at night for the students coming for the drawing class. I decided to get into a space where I can have my art on one side and the teaching on the other side. When I say teaching, that's the word I use to get kids to sign up to come in. Actually, it's not the kids who sign in, it's the parents. That's why it's called teaching. But when the kids come in, we have an agreement. They get this side of the room, this one is my side. The front that you see here is their side, and I prepare the space before they come in. I prepare some of the stuff that they'll want to play and have a look at. In this case, there is no need for language and there is no need for instruction. Whatever is there is fair. You take it, you can play with it. On the other side, despite it not being really the place where people can go, there is no barrier. Kids do go on the other side. And things happen on the other side. It's usually something I'm building, or something I'm trying out, some seeds that I'm drawing, and the kids ask questions. I entertain it for a little bit. I try to keep things balanced between the two, and then they get on with the drawing, and the questions come back. The questions come back, and if it's not along the lines of what we were planning for the day, it always stays. Why did they ask this question when it was not what we were talking about today? And this is where you can get ideas for moving forward. Now you see what I'm doing here. What's happening is, when I say I'm teaching, I'm being taught. This is what's happening really in a proficient environment. Of course the kids get something from it. There is no question about it. You put a kid in a room with a potato, sorry, potatoes, that's just what comes on all the time. Let's add a lemon for good measure. They'll do something. Add a straw, and then they'll be sticking the one into the other and then making, I'll let you decide what they could be making. They could be making lots of things. I'll not say the word so that your imagination is free. So this is the environment. Some of the things you can see on that day, I had a low table because very tiny kids were coming. I had a projector with some video camera on the fish. I think you see this in the next picture. Okay, then I bring in the observers. That's what I like to call them. They observe, they look, they play, of course. And I had a whole session on zebrafish, and we just, for weeks, they just came in and played, and depending on what they were saying on that day, I would think about what I would need to put on the table for the next time. Then we have the explorers. It's the same kids. They want to try out things. They want to pull things apart. They want to go beyond. They start asking questions. If you observe, naturally, obviously, and in any case, you will have questions. So we give them space to have these questions. You'll notice there's no adults in most of these pictures. I try to have as few adults around as possible. And then we put up an exhibition. Did you see? Oh yeah. Gave them different tools to express what they had seen. Then we put up an exhibition. Then we have the pointers. It's the same kids. Kids like to point and say, look at this. That's not what you told me. Oh yeah, actually I don't know. That's what I like to tell them. And in many cases, I try for it to be true. I try to teach kids things I don't know. Again, I'm using the word teach in a cautious manner. I'm just a person in which they should be able to bounce things off. So if I don't know, let's go and find out together. So they point at things, and here you see in the corner, I had taken out a collection of seeds, some of which I had collected for many years myself, and some they had collected themselves. We put everything together. We're trying to build designs, and then all the kids together are sharing what the design meant. In the process, some of the rubber seeds that we had there exploded. If you are from Singapore, you might know that rubber seeds explode. It's a natural occurrence. It makes a lot of noise, and the kids are, what's this? What's this? What happened? First question, what? As soon as people realize what it was, the kids ask, how did it explode? Then we try to figure out. We're not, actually the second question, sorry, is why? Usually in that order. And then the third question is how? So the why, I gave the answer that I'd heard in school, and I said, I think it's because the seed needs to propagate further. Does that sound reasonable? So we think, we discuss, and then how? How does it do it? And then they come up with all sorts of possibilities. Now what happened after this session, I created a new piece of work. Actually, I produced a few. So this was the giggling weeds, meant for adults, and it was a piece that was done for Playeum a year ago, and it brought joy to the adults around them. So again, the children are just not there for us to feed them stuff. They feed us at least as much as we feed them. And this person was just very happy to go and touch the different weeds and hear them all giggle. Another piece of work that was inspired was the piece on the right called 1,000 Rubber Seeds and 1 Mutant that was exhibited at the Singapore Art Museum last year. For comparison, I have put a piece of work that I had done in 2004. That was 1,000 mutants. I won't get into the detail of what it is. It was just for you to see the comparison between science and art. and to see how you just can't escape a way of thinking. You're always exploring, always learning, always trying new things. But this was definitely inspired by the time I spent in the lab having discussion with the children and realizing that with time, the adults came to the same questions. So in the museum, there was a large display of all these seeds. These are all wall type. These are all supposedly the same. But really, if you look at them, they're all different. So there was a little game where people had to pick the postcards that were there and match A3, BC, B4, and figure out which seed was which. This is a prerequisite if you're going to do the next thing. In another part of the installation, there was this table which represented the lab bench where the scientists would be studying these rubber seeds. And what happened was quite extraordinary. It was an extension of what had been happening in my own space, is people took it to themselves. There was no instruction. There was a pencil, only one, an eraser, and some paper, some extremely good quality paper. I'm an artist. I hate scratchy paper. So I had sourced the best paper, the best pen, and I had just left a pile. And I made sure I came to collect very regularly the drawings. And what happened, it didn't say that you had to leave the drawing. It didn't say you could take it away. But within weeks, the pile grew. And I had these beautiful drawings that, for me, are the proof that if you give people the time and the space, they will observe and they will learn. And make no mistake, drawing is how you learn, because you have to observe. You're making a straight line, you assume it's a straight line. As you make your second line, you see it doesn't fit. You have to go back and understand how your sample that you're drawing is in order to resolve how you are drawing. Drawing is a complex thing, and you learn a lot from doing it. So audience participation, definitely, without being prompted. Now this is another piece that I did recently. I stepped out of my comfort zone, which is kids this high, and I went for kids that were, some of them as high as me. I was invited to work with 150 14-year-olds. So I thought about it for a while. Actually, I didn't really, not for very long. Just said, let's do it. In order to get them all to participate, I had a small task for them. We looked at the plants around the school, and I tried to assign to think, to make them understand and accept that these plants might have feelings. What feelings might they have? So in the process of discussing all this, we had the plants on the tables, they had to draw them. I made them draw on acrylic plates, and we displayed every single one of them. And then from what the discussion we had, and what emotions they thought the plants might be going through, we did this installation, which was exhibited in a school. Sorry, the documentation is not very good. What it consisted of was, maybe the next picture, here you see the people of all age interacting with it. This is very dark. What it consisted of was a bunch of live plants, which when touched and made contact with the live earth on the side, you have to make contact with both. Then the plant would talk to you, express one of their feelings, and the plates at the back, you see some blue and some red, would respond by moving and changing color. What I liked about this was a few things. It was the challenge of working with technology. I'm low-tech by default. So I roped in some people, some of whom are here tonight, this afternoon. People from different areas. So I had different community mixing. Many people from Singapore who'd never been to the French school, vice versa. 10-year-olds would walk by as we were installing, because it was a long process. What are you doing? Oh, we're soldering. Can I solder? Sure, sit down. Here's some solder, so just do it. And kids who weren't supposed to be involved got involved into making, on top of the kids from the classes that had been involved in the project. Once everything was installed, the whole school was passing by, and everybody was happy trying to interact and learning from it. You know, how does it work and what is happening, and having different levels of questions. So that's it for, you know, mixing the art, the science, the education, working with small kids. And now I'm starting on a new journey. I'm starting with Playeum as their creative director. Playeum has existed in Singapore for 6 years at least. We're opening a new center for September. And what is exciting about this is it's a large space, finally a space for Playeum to let children express their creativity. And we're doing this by inviting artists to propose quality artworks, carefully thought and discussed with the Playeum team that knows about working with children. So the artists don't need to know how to work with children, but we discuss it with them. And hopefully the children in the space can create a new layer within this work. Each exhibition will be lasting from 4 to 6 months, and then we have a changeover. But to be true, over the 4 months, we expect many things to be changing in the center as children come over and over again and new artists come and create new things in there. I don't know if I've forgotten anything, but I think that's where I want to end my talk. Thank you.